जब जीवन में दुख का अंधियारा छाए, मन में सदा श्रद्धा की ज्योत जलाए, विश्वास मन का तुझको पार लगाए, भक्ति भावना श्रद्धा से जो शीश झुकाए, दुख आने जाने धूप और साये, बाबरा ये मनवा तेरा उलझ न जाए, मन में आशा के दीपक बुझने न पाए, सुबह फिर से आएगी, रात संग जाए, कहते हैं किस्मत जिसको कर्म का फल है, जीवन में कर्मयोग का मार्ग ही अटल है, जो कुछ है हाथ में तेरे, एक यही पल है, अच्छे कर्म किए जाए तो जीवन सफल है। ओम साई ओम साई ओम साई ओम साई ओम साई ओम साई ओम। ओ जब कठिनाई छाई तू ही याद आया, भटके राही को तूने रास्ता दिखाया, तूने भक्तों का बेड़ा पार लगाया, तेरी महिमा मेरे साई कान जान पाया, नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्।
श्रद्धयाग्निः समिध्यते श्रद्धया विन्दते हविः श्रद्धां भगस्य मूर्धनि वचसा वेदयामसि प्रियग्श्रद्धे ददतः प्रियग्श्रद्धेदिदासतः प्रियं भोजेषु यज्वसु इदम् उदितं कृधि यथा देवा असुरेषु श्रद्धामुग्रेषु चक्रिरे एवं भोजेषु यज्वसु अस्माकमुदितं कृधि श्रद्धान् देवा यजमानाः वायुगोपा उपासते श्रद्धागुं हृदयया कूत्या श्रद्धया हूयते हविः श्रद्धां प्रातर्हवामहे श्रद्धां मध्यं दिनं परि श्रद्धागुं सूर्यस्य निमृचि श्रद्धे श्रद्धापये हमा श्रद्धा देवानधिवस्ते श्रद्धा विश्वमिदं जगत् श्रद्धां कामस्य मातरं हविषा वर्धयामसि ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
शुभाकारवन्तं गणेशं भजेऽहं जगत्कारणं साई सर्वस्वरूपं दशम् अष्टपूर्णम् वयस्कावतारो प्रभुं परिवासं च लोकैकनाथम् प्रभुं परिवासं च परिवासं च विघ्नहरण प्रभु आदि गजानन
Shall I start? Yeah. Okay. Chapter 24. Baba's Wit and Humor, Chana Leela, Hemad Pant, Sudama, Anna Chinchinikar versus Mausibai. Preliminary. To say that we shall state such and such in the next or this chapter is a sort of egoism. Unless we surrender our ego to the feet of our Sadguru, we will not succeed in our undertaking. If we become egoless, then our success is assured. By worshipping Sai Baba, we attain both the objects, worldly and spiritual, and are fixed in our true nature and get peace and happiness. Therefore, those who want to gain their welfare should respectfully hear Sai Baba's leelas or stories and meditate on them. If they do this, they will easily attain the object of their life and get bliss. Generally, all people like wit and humor, but they do not like that jokes should be cut at their expense. But Baba's method was peculiar. When it was accompanied with gestures, it was very interesting and instructive, and the people therefore did not mind if they were held up to the ridicule. Hemadpant gives his own instance below. Chana Leela. In Shirdi, bazaar was held every Sunday, and people from the neighboring villages came there, erected booths and stalls on the street, and sold their wares and commodities. Every noon, the masjid was crowded, more or less, but on Sunday it was crowded to suffocation. On one such Sunday, Hemadpant sat in front of Baba, shampooing his legs and muttering God's name. Shama was on Baba's left, Baman Rao to his right, Shriman Bhuti and Kaka Sahib Dikshit and others were also present there. Then Shama laughed and said to Anna Sahib, "See that some grains seem to have stuck to the sleeve of your coat." So saying, he touched the sleeve and found that there were some grains. Hemadpant straightened his left forearm to see what the matter was, when to the surprise of all, some grains of gram come rolling down and were picked up by the people who were sitting there. This incident furnished a subject matter for joke. Everybody present began to wonder and said something or other as to how the grains found their way into the sleeve of the coat and lodged there so long. Hemadpant also could not guess how they found an entrance and stayed there. When nobody could give any satisfactory explanation in this matter, and everybody was wondering about this mystery, Baba said as follows: "Baba, this fellow, Anna Sahib, has got the bad habit of eating alone. Today is bazaar day, and he was here chewing grams. I know his habit, and these grams are a proof of it. What wonder is there in this matter?" Hemadpant: "Baba, I never know of eating things alone. Then why do you thrust this bad habit on me? I have never yet seen Shirdi Bazaar. I never went to the bazaar today. Then how could I buy grams and how could I eat them if I had not brought them? I never eat anything unless I share it with others present near me." Baba: "It is true that you give to the persons present, but if none be nearby, what could you or I do? But do you remember me before eating? Am I not always with you? Then do you offer me anything before you eat?" Moral. Let us mark and note carefully what Baba has taught us by this incident. He has advised us that before the senses, mind and intellect enjoy their objects, he should first be remembered. And if this be done, it is in a way an offering to him. The senses, etc., can never remain without their objects. But if those objects are first offered to the Guru, the attachment for them will naturally vanish. In this way, all the vrittis or thoughts regarding desire, anger, avarice, etc., should first be offered and directed to the Guru. And if this practice be followed, the Lord will help you in eradicating all the vrittis. When, before enjoyment of the objects, you think that Baba is close by, the question whether the object is fit to be enjoyed or not will at once arise, then the object that is not fit to be enjoyed will be shunned, and in this way our vicious habits or vices will disappear and our character will improve. Then love for the Guru will grow and pure knowledge will sprout up. When this knowledge grows, the bondage of body consciousness that we are the body will snap, and our intellect will be merged in spirit consciousness. We are the spirit. Then we shall get bliss and contentment. There is no difference between Guru and God. He who sees any difference in them sees God nowhere. So, leaving aside all ideas of difference, we should regard Guru and God as one. And if we serve our Guru as stated above, Lord or God will be certainly pleased and purify our minds. He will give us self realization. To put the matter in a nutshell, we should not enjoy any object with our senses, etc., without first remembering our Guru. When the mind is trained in this way, we will be always reminded of Baba, and our meditation on Baba will grow apace. The second form of Baba will ever be before our eyes, and then devotion, non-attachment, and salvation will be all ours. When Baba's form is thus fixed before our mental vision, we forget hunger, thirst, and this samsara. The consciousness of worldly pleasures will disappear, and our mind shall attain peace and happiness. Sudama's story. When the above story was being narrated, Himadpant was reminded of a similar story of Sudama, which illustrates the same principle, and therefore it is given here. Sri Krishna and his elder brother Balaram were living with a co-student named Sudama in the ashram of their guru Sandipani. Once, Krishna and Balaram were sent to the forest for bringing fuel. Then the wife of Sandipani sent also Sudama for the same purpose with some quantity of grams for the three. When Krishna met Sudama in the forest, he said to him, Dada, I want water as I am thirsty. Sudama replied, no water should be drunk on an empty stomach, so it is better to rest a while. He did not say that he had got grams with him and that he should take some. As Krishna was tired, he lay down for rest on the lap of Sudama and was snoring. Seeing this, Sudama took out the grams and began to eat. Then Krishna suddenly asked him, Dada, what are you eating? Whence is the sound? He replied, what is there to eat? I'm shivering with cold and my teeth are chattering. I can't even repeat distinctly Vishnu Sahasranama. Hearing this, the omniscient Krishna said, I just dreamt a dream in which I saw a man eating things of another. And when asked about this, he said, what dust should he eat? Meaning thereby that he had nothing to eat. The other man said, let it be so. Dada, this is only a dream. I know that you won't eat anything without me. Under the influence of the dream, I asked you what you were eating. If Sudama had known a bit of the omniscient Sri Krishna and his leelas, he would not have acted as he did. Therefore, he had to suffer for what he did. Though he was a chum of Sri Krishna, he had to pass his later life in utter poverty. But when he later offered Krishna a handful of parched rice, earned by his wife with her own labor, Krishna was pleased and gave him a golden city to enjoy. This story should be remembered by those who have the habit of eating things alone without partaking them with others. The Shruti also emphasizes this lesson and asks us to offer things first to God and then enjoy them after they are renounced by Him. Baba also has taught us the same lesson in his inimitable and humorous way. Anna Chinchinikar versus Mausibai. Hemadpant now describes another witty incident in which Baba played a peacemaker's part. There was once a devotee by name Damodar Ghalesham Babare, alias Anna Chinchinikar. He was simple, rough, and straightforward. He cared for nobody, always spoke plainly, and carried all dealings in cash. Though he looked outwardly harsh and uncompromising, he was good-natured and guileless. So Sai Baba loved him. One day, like others serving Baba in their own way, this Anna was one noon standing prone and was shampooing the left arm of Baba, which rested on the katra or railing. On the right side, one old widow named Benubai Kaujalgi, whom Baba called a mother and all others Mausibai, was serving Baba in her own way. This Mausibai was an elderly woman of pure heart. She clasped the fingers of both her hands around the trunk of Baba and was at this time kneading Baba's abdomen. She did this so forcibly that Baba's back and abdomen became flat and Baba moved from side to side. Anna on the other side was steady, but Mausibai's face moved up and down with her strokes. Once it so happened that her face came very close to Anna's. Being of a witty disposition, she remarked, "Oh, this Anna is a lewd fellow. He wants to kiss me. Even being so old with grey hair, he feels no shame in kissing me." These words enraged Anna, and he pulled up his sleeve and said, "You say that I'm an old bad fellow? Am I quite a fool? It is you that have picked up a quarrel and are quarrelling with me." All the persons present there were enjoying this encounter between them. Baba, who loved both of them equally and wanted to pacify them, managed the affair very skillfully. Lovingly he said, "Oh, Anna, why are you so unnecessarily raising this hue and cry? I do not understand what harm or impropriety is there when the mother is kissed." Hearing these words of Baba, both of them were satisfied, and all the persons laughed merrily and enjoyed Baba's wit to their heart's content. Baba's characteristics, his dependency on bhaktas. Baba allowed his devotees to serve him in their own way and did not like any other persons interfering in this. To quote an incident, the same Mosibai was on another occasion kneading Baba's abdomen. Seeing the fury and force used by her, all the other devotees felt nervous and anxious. They said, "Oh, mother, be more considerate and moderate, otherwise you'll break Baba's arteries and nerves." At this, Baba got up at once from his seat, dashed his satka on the ground. He got enraged and his eyes became red like a live charcoal. None dared to stand before or face Baba. When he took hold of one end of the satka with both hands, and pressed it in the hollow of his abdomen. The other end he fixed to the post and began to press his abdomen against it. The satka, which was about 2 or 3 feet in length, seemed all to go into the abdomen, and the people feared that the abdomen would be ruptured in a short time. The post was fixed and immovable, and Baba began to go closer and closer to it and clasp the post firmly. Every moment the rupture was expected, and they were all dismayed. They did not know what to do and stood dumb with wonder and fear. Baba suffered this ordeal for the sake of his bhakta. The other devotees wanted only to give a hint to the Mosibai to be moderate in her service and not cause any trouble or pain to Baba. This they did with good intention, but Baba did not brook even this. They were surprised to see that their well-intentioned effort had resulted in this catastrophe, and they could do nothing but to wait and see. Fortunately, Baba's rage soon cooled down. He left the satka and resumed his seat. From this time onward, the devotees took the lesson that they should not meddle with anybody, but allow him to serve Baba as he chooses, as he was capable to gauge the merits and worth of the service rendered upon him. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 25 The Moana Kasar of Ahmednagar. 1. Speculations. 2. Amralila. Preliminary. We begin this chapter with a vow with all our 8 limbs to Sai Baba, who is an ocean of mercy, the God incarnate, who is Parabrahma and the great Yogeshwara, Lord of Yoga. Victory be unto Sai Baba, who is the crest jewel of the saints, who is the home of all auspicious things, who is our Atmaram, dear self, and who is able refuge of the devotees. We prostrate ourselves before him, who has attained the aim and end of life. Sai Baba is always full of mercy. What is wanted on our part is wholehearted devotion to him. When a devotee has got firm faith and devotion, his wishes are soon fulfilled. When the desire arose in the mind of Hemadpant to write the life and leelas of Sai Baba, he immediately got it written by him. When the order to keep the memories was given, Hemadpant was inspired and his intellect got strength and boldness to undertake and finish the work. He was not, he say, qualified to write the work, but the gracious blessings of Baba enabled him to complete the undertaking, and thus you have this Satcharitra, which is a Somakant jewel, from which nectar in the form of Sai Leela oozes out for the readers to drink to their heart's content. Whenever a devotee complete and wholehearted devotion to Sai Baba, all his calamities and dangers were warded off, and his welfare attended to by Baba. The story of Damodar Savalaram Resane, Kasar of Ahmednagar, now of Pune, alias Damoana, illustrating the above statement, is given below. Damoana. Readers are aware that a mention of this gentleman was made in the 6th chapter regarding the celebration of Ramnami festival in Shirdi. He went to Shirdi about the year 1895, when the Ramnami Utsav celebration began, and from that time he has been providing an ornamental flag for that occasion every year. He also feeds the poor and the fakirs that come there for the festival. His speculations. 1. Cotton. A Bombay friend of Damoana wrote to him that they should do some cotton speculation business in partnership, which would bring them about 2 lakhs of rupees as profit. Damoana says in his statement made about the year 1936 to Mr. B.V. Narasimha Swami that the proposal about speculating at Bombay in cotton was from a broker who was not a partner, and that he, Damoana, was to be the sole adventurer. Vide page 75 of the Devotee's Experiences, Part 2. The broker wrote that the business was good and involved no risks, and that the opportunity should not be lost. Damoana was oscillating in his mind. He could not at once determine to venture in the speculation. He thought about this, and as he was a devotee of Baba, he wrote a detailed letter to Shama, giving all the facts, and requested him to consult Baba and take his advice in the matter. Shama got the letter next day, and when he came with it at noon to the masjid and placed it before Baba, he asked Shama what the matter was and what the letter was about. He replied that Damoana of Nagar wanted to consult him about something. Then Baba said, "What does he write and what does he plan?" It seems that he wants to catch the sky and that he is not content with what God has given him. Read his letter, Shama then said. The letter contains what you have just said. O Deva, you sit here calm and composed and agitate the devotees, and when they get restless, you draw them here in person, and others through letters. If you know the contents of the letter, why do you then press me to read it? Baba said, O Shama, read it please. I speak at random, and who believes me? Then Shama read the letter, and Baba heard it attentively and said feelingly, "The Set, Damoana, has gone mad. Write to him in reply that nothing is wanting in his house. Let him be content with a half loaf bread he has now, and let him not bother himself about larks. Shama sent the reply which Damona was anxiously waiting for. Reading it, he found that all his hopes and prospects about the lakhs of rupees as profit were dashed to the ground. He thought that he had done a mistake in consulting Baba. But as Shama had hinted in the reply that there was always much difference in seeing and hearing, and that, therefore, he should come to Shirdi personally and see Baba, he thought it advisable to go to Shirdi and consult Baba personally about the affair. So he went to Shirdi, saw Baba, prostrated himself before him, and sat shampooing his legs. He had no courage to ask Baba openly about the speculation, but he thought in his mind that it would be better if some share in the business should be assigned to Baba, and said in his mind that if Baba were to help him in this transaction, he would surrender some share of profits to him. Damoana was thus thinking secretly in his mind, but nothing was veiled from Baba. Everything, past, present, and future, were clear to him as an amlaka fruit in hand. A child wants sweets, but its mother gives bitter pills. The former spoils its health, while the latter improves it. So the mother, looking to the welfare of her infant, coaxes it and gives it bitter pills. Baba, kind mother as he was, knew the present and the future prospects of his devotees, and therefore, reading Damoana's mind, he openly spoke to him. Bapu, I do not want to be entangled in any such worldly things, sharing profits. Seeing Baba's disapproval, Damoana dropped the enterprise. 2. Grain dealing. Then he thought of trading in grain, rice, wheat, and other groceries. Baba read also this thought and said to him, You will be buying at 5 seers and selling at 7 seers a rupee. So this business was also given up. The rise in the prices of grains was kept up for some time, and Baba's prophecy seemed to be falsified. But in a month or two, there was an abundant rain everywhere, and the prices suddenly fell down, and therefore those who stored grains suffered a severe loss. Damoana was saved from this fate. Needless to say that the cotton speculation, which was conducted by the broker with the help of another merchant, also collapsed with a severe loss to the adventurers. After seeing that Baba had saved him from 2 severe losses in cotton and grain speculations, Damoana's faith in Baba grew strong, and he remained a true devotee of Baba till his passing away, and even now. Leela, Mango Miracle. Once a parcel of about 300 mangoes was received at Shirdi. It was sent from Goa by one Mamlatdar named Raleigh to Sai Baba in the name of Shama. When it was opened, all the mangoes were found to be in good condition. They were given in Shama's charge, and only 4 were retained and placed in Columba pot by Baba. He said that these 4 fruits are for Damoana. Let them lie there. This Damoana had 3 wives, according to his statement above. He had not 3, but 2 wives only. He had no issue. He consulted many astrologers and himself studied astrology to some extent, and found that as there was a Papi, inauspicious planet, in his horoscope, there was no prospect of any issue to him in this life. But he had great faith in Baba. When he went to Shirdi 2 hours after the receipt of the mango parcel for worshipping Baba, he said, Though other people are looking for the mangoes, there were Damyas. He whose they are should eat and die. Damoana, on hearing these words, were first shocked, but on Malsapati, a prominent Shirdi devotee, explaining to him that death meant death of the little self or egos, and to have it at Baba's feet was a blessing. He said that he would accept the fruits and eat them. But Baba said to him, "Do not eat yourself, but give them to your junior wife." This Amra Leela mango miracle of 4 mangoes will give her 4 sons and 4 daughters. This was done, and ultimately, in due course, it was found Baba's words turned out true and not those of the astrologers. Baba's speech established its efficacy or greatness while he was living in the flesh, but wonder of wonders, it did the same even after his passing away. Baba said, "Believe me, though I pass away, my bones in my tomb will give you hope and confidence. Not only myself, but my tomb would be speaking, moving, and communicating with those who would surrender themselves wholeheartedly to me. Do not be anxious that I would be absent from you. You will hear my bones speaking and discussing your welfare. But remember me always, believe in me, heart and soul, and then you will be most benefited." Prayer. Hematman closes this chapter with a prayer. O Sai Satguru, the wish-fulfilling tree of the Bhaktas, let us never forget and lose sight of your feet. We have been troubled with the ins and the outs, the births and the deaths in this samsara. Now free us from this cycle of births and deaths. Restrain us from the outgoing of our senses to their objects and introvert us and bring us face to face with the Atma, self. As long as this outgoing tendency of the senses and the mind is not checked, there is no prospect of self-realization. Neither son, nor wife, nor friend will be of any use in the end. It is only you who will give us salvation and happiness. Destroy completely our tendency for discussions and other evil matters. Let our tongue get a passion for chanting your name. Drive out our thoughts, good or otherwise, and make us forget our bodies and houses, and do away with our egoism. Make us ever remember your name and forget all other things. Remove the restlessness of our mind and make it steady and calm. If you just clasp us, the darkness of night of our ignorance will vanish, and we shall live happily in your light. That you made us drink the nectar of your leelas and awakened us from our slumber is due to your grace and our store of merits in past births. Note in this connection the following extract from the Mohanas. The statement mentioned above is worth pursuit. Page 76. Once when I sat at his feet along with many others, I had 2 questions in my mind, and he gave answers to both. 1. There are so many crowding at Sai Baba. Do they all get benefit from him? To this, he replied orally, "Look at the mango tree in blossom. If all the flowers brought fruit, what a splendid crop it would be. But do they? Most fall off, either as flowers or as unripe fruits, by wind, etc. Very few remain." 2. The second question was about myself. If Baba were to pass away, how hopelessly adrift I would be, and how am I to fare then? To this, Baba answered that he would be with me when and wherever I thought of him. That promise had kept up before 1918 and has been keeping up after 1918. He is still with me. He is still guiding me. This was about 1910-11, when brothers separated from me and my sister died. There was a theft and police inquiry, all of which incidents upset me very much. When my sister died, my mind was much upset. I did not care for life and enjoyments. When I went to Baba, he pacified me with his Upadesh and made me eat a feast of Purampuri at Appa Kulkarni's house and get pasted with sandal. There was a theft in my house. A 30 years friend of mine stole my wife's jewel box. including her auspicious nathi, nose ring. I wept before Baba's photo. The next day, the man returned the jewel box and prayed for pardon. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 26 Stories of Bhakt Pant, Harishchandra Pitale, and Gopal Chandra Ambedkar. Preliminary. All the things that we see in the universe are nothing but the play of Maya, the illusion, the creative power of Lord. These things do not really exist. What really exists is the real absolute, just as we mistake a rope of a garland or a stick for a serpent or on the coconut on account of darkness. We always see the phenomena, that is, things as they are outwardly appear and not as the man which underlies all the visible things. It is only Sadguru that opens the eyes of our understanding and enables us to see things in their true light and not as they appear. Let us therefore worship the Sadguru and pray to him to give us the true vision, which is nothing but the God's vision. In a workshop, Hemant Pant has given us a novel in the form of worship. Let us, he says, use the holy water in the form of tears of joy to wash the Sadguru's feet. Let us besmear his body with sandal paste of pure love. Let us cover his body with the cloth of true faith. Let us offer 8 lotuses in the form of 8 sattvic emotions and the fruit in the form of our concentrated mind. Let us apply his head Bukha, the black powder in the form of devotion, and tie the waistband of bhakti and place our head on his toes. After decorating the Sadguru with all the jewelry in this way, let us offer all to him and wave chamar, the fan made of animal hairs, of devotion to ward off the heat. After such blissful worship, let us pray thus: introvert our mind, turn it inward, give us the discrimination between unreal and real, non-attachment for all worldly things, and thus enable us to get self-realization. We surrender ourselves, body and soul, body, consciousness, and ego. Make our eyes yours so that we should never feel pleasure and pain. Control our body and mind as you will and wish. Let our mind get rest in your feet. Now let us begin the stories of this chapter. Bhakt Pant. Once it so happened that the devotee by name Pant, a disciple of another Sadguru, had good fortune of visiting Shirdi. He had no mind to go to Shirdi, but man proposes one way and God disposes the other. He was travelling in BBCI railway train and he met many friends and relations bound for Shirdi. They all asked him to accompany them and he could not say no. They alighted at Bombay while Pant got down at Virar. There he took the permission of his Sadguru for Shirdi trip and after arranging for the expenses left to the party for Shirdi, they all reached the place in the morning and went to the masjid at about 11 a.m. Seeing the concourse of devotees assembled for Baba's worship, they all were pleased, but Pant suddenly got fit and fell senseless. They were all frightened. Still, they tried their best to bring him to his senses. With Baba's grace and with his pictures of water, which they poured over his head, he regained his consciousness and sat upright as if he was just awakened from sleep. The omniscient Baba, knowing that he was the disciple of another Guru, assured him fearlessness and confined his faith in his own Guru by addressing him as follows: come what may, leave not, but stick to your bolster, support, that is the Guru, and ever remain steady, always at one moment, in union with him. Pant at once knew the significance of this remark and thus he was reminded of his Sadguru, the kindness of Baba he never forgot in his life. Harishchandra Pitale. There was a gentleman by name Harishchandra Pitale in Bombay. He had a son who suffered from epilepsy. He tried many allopathic and Ayurvedic doctors, but there was no cure. There remained only one way, that is, of restoring to the saints. It has been stated in chapter 15 that Das Ganu, by his inimitable and splendid kirtans spread the fame of Sai Baba in Bombay Presidency. Mr. Pitale heard some of these kirtans in 1910 and learned therefrom and from others that Baba, by his touch and mere glance, cured many incurable diseases. Then a desire arose in his mind to see Sai Baba. Making all the preparations and taking presents in fruit baskets, Mr. Pitale came to Shirdi with family, wife, and children. He then went to the masjid with them, prostrated before Baba, and placed his sick son on Baba's feet. No sooner Baba saw the child, an untoward thing happened. The son immediately revolved his eyes and fell down senseless. His mouth began to foam and his whole body began to perspire profusely, and it seemed as if he breathed himself out. Seeing this, the parents became very nervous and excited. The boy used to get such fits very often, but this fit seems to persist long. Tears began to flow ceaselessly from the mother's eye, and she began to wail, crying that her condition was like that of a person who was being afraid of the robbers, ran into a house which collapsed on him, or like a cow fearing a tiger ran into the hands of a butcher, or like a traveler who, being tormented by the heat of the sun, went to take refuge under a tree which fell upon him, or like a devout person going for worship into a temple which collapsed upon him. Then Baba comforted her, saying, "Do not wail like this. Wait a bit, have patience. Take the boy to your lodging, and he will come to his senses within an hour." And they did as directed by Baba, and found that his words came true. As soon as he was taken into the wada, the boy recovered, and all the Pitale family, husband, wife, and others were delighted, and all their doubts disappeared. Then Mr. Pitale went with his wife to see Baba and prostrated himself before him very humbly and respectfully, and sat shampooing his legs, mentally thanking Baba for his help. Baba then smilingly said, "Are not all your thoughts, doubts, and apprehensions calm now? Hurry, the Lord will protect him who has got faith and patience." Mr. Pitale, who was a rich and well-to-do gentleman, he distributed sweetmeats on a large scale and gave Baba excellent fruits and pan, the betel leaves. Mrs. Pitale was very sattvic lady, simple, loving, and faithful. She used to sit near the post, staring at Baba with tears of joy flowing down from her eyes. On seeing her amicable and loving nature, Baba was much pleased with her. Like God's saints are always dependent on their devotees who surrender and worship them with their heart and soul. After passing some happy days in Baba's company, the Tale family came to the masjid and take Baba's leave to depart. Baba gave them udi and blessings and called Mr. Pitale and close by him and said, "Bapu, I had given you before ₹2. Now I give you ₹3. Keep these in your shrine of worship and you will be benefited." Mr. Pitale accepted this prasad, prostrated himself and before Baba and prayed for his blessings. A thought arose in his mind that as this was his first trip to Shirdi, he could not understand what Baba meant, and he said he had given ₹2 previously. He was curious to have this mystery solved, but Baba kept silent. When Mr. Pitale returned to Bombay, he narrated to his old mother all that had happened in Shirdi and the mystery about Baba giving him ₹2 formally. The mother also did not understand the mystery, but thinking seriously about this, she was reminded of an old incident which solved the mystery. She said to her son, "As you now went to Sai Baba with your son, so had your father done when he took you to Akalkot for darshana of a Maharaja many years ago. That Maharaj was also a Siddha, perfect yogi, omniscient and liberal. Your father was pure, devout, and his worship was accepted. He then gave your father ₹2 for being kept in the shrine and worshipped. Your father worshipped them accordingly till his death. But thereafter, the worship was neglected and the rupees was lost. After some years, the memory of these ₹2 also disappeared. And now, as you're very fortunate, Mr. Akalkotar, Maharaj has appeared to you in the form of Sai Baba, just to remind your duties and worship and to ward off all dangers. Now be aware, henceforth, leave off all doubts and bad thoughts. Follow your ancestors and behave well. Go on worshipping the family gods and the rupees. Appraise properly and take pride in blessings of saints, Sai Samartha, and had kindly revived the spirit of bhakti in you, cultivated and in your benefit. Hearing the remarks of the mother, Mr. Vitale was very much delighted. He came to know and was convinced about the all perceivedness of Baba, significance of his darshana. Henceforward, he became very careful about his behavior. Mr. Ambadekar. Mr. Gopal Narayan Ambadekar of Pune was a devotee of Baba. He served for 10 years in Abkari department, which is the exercise department in Thane district in Java state, from where he had to retire. He tried to get some other job but did not succeed. He was overtaken by other calamities and his condition grew from bad to worse. He passed 7 years in this condition, visiting Shirdi every year and placing his grievance before Baba. In 1916, his plight became worse and he decided to commit suicide in Shirdi. So he came there with his wife and stayed for 2 months. One night, while sitting in a bullock cart in front of Dikshit Vadas, he resolved at the end of his life by throwing himself into a well close by. He proposed to do one way, but Baba wished to do something else. A few places from this place, there was a hotel and its proprietor, Mr. Sagun, a devotee of Baba, came out and accosted him and asked him thus, "Did you ever read the Akalkotkar Maharaja's life?" Ambadekar took the book from Sagun and began to read it. Casually, or we may say providentially, he came across a story which was to this effect. During the life of Akalkotar Maharaj, a certain devotee suffered very much from an incurable disease. When he could endure the agony and pain no longer, he became desperate and to end his miseries, threw himself one night into the well. Immediately, the Maharaj came there, took him out with his own hands and advised, "You must enjoy the fruit, good or bad, of your past actions. If the enjoyment be incomplete, suicide won't help you. You have to take another birth and suffer again. So instead of killing yourself, why not suffer for some time and finish up the store of fruit of your past deeds and be done with it once for all?" Reading this appropriate and timely story, Ambadekar was much surprised and moved. Had he not got Baba's hint through the story, he would have been no more. On seeing Baba's all-pervasiveness and benevolence, his faith in him was confirmed, and he became a staunch devotee. His father was a devotee of Akalkotar Maharaj, and Sai Baba wanted him to walk into his father's footsteps and continue his devotion to him. He then got Sai Baba's blessings and his prospects began to improve. He studied astrology and gained proficiency in it and thereby improved his lot. He was able to earn sufficient money and passed this afterlife in ease and comfort. Both to Shri Sai, peace be all.
Chapter 27. Favor shown by giving Bhagavat and Vishnu Sahasranam, Dixit's Vital Vision, Geeta Rahasya, Kapardes. This chapter describes how Sai Baba favored his devotees by granting them religious books after he had touched and consecrated them for Parayan, reading regularly, and certain other matters. Preliminary. When a man takes refuge at the feet of the Sadguru, he gets the merit of bowing to the Trinity, that is, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, and also Parabrahma. Victory be unto Shri Sai, the wish-fulfilling tree and the ocean of knowledge, who gives us self-realization. O Sai, create in us reverence for your stories. Let the readers and audience devour them with the same relish with which the Chatak bird drinks the water from the clouds and becomes happy. While listening to your stories, let them and their families get all the true and pious emotions, with let their bodies perspire, let their eyes be full of tears, let their breath be steady, Let their minds be composed. Let their hair stand on end. Let them cry, sob, and quiver. Let their hostilities vanish. When these things happen, that is a sign of the grace of the Guru dawning upon them. When these emotions grow in you, the Guru is most pleased and will certainly lead you on the path of self-realization. The best way, therefore, to get free from the shackles of Maya is our complete and wholehearted surrender to Baba. The Vedas cannot take you across the ocean of Maya. It is only the Sadguru who can do so and make you see the God in all creatures. Granting consecrated book. The various methods of imparting instructions followed by Baba have already been noticed in the previous chapters. In this, we shall deal with one aspect of it. It was the habit of some devotees to take to Baba some religious books of which they wanted to make a special study and to receive the same back from him after they were touched and consecrated by him. While reading such books daily, they felt that Baba was with them. Once, Kaka Mahajani came to Shirdi with a copy of Eknati Bhagavat. Shama took this book to read in the masjid. There, Baba took it from him, touched it, and turning some pages here and there, gave it back to Shama and asked him to keep it with them. When Shama said that it belonged to Kaka and had to be returned to him, "No, no," replied Baba. "As I have given it to you, you better keep it. It will be of use to you." In this way, many books were entrusted to Shama. Kaka Mahajani, after a few days, came again with another copy of the same Bhagavat and gave it in Baba's hand. Then Baba gave it back as prasad and asked him to preserve it well and assured him that it would stand him in good stead. Kaka accepted it with reverence. Shama and Vishnu Sahasranama. Shama was a very intimate devotee of Baba, and Baba wanted to favor him in a particular way by giving him a copy of the Vishnu Sahasranam as prasad. This was done in the following way. Once a Ramadasi, follower of Saint Ramadas, came to Shirdi and stayed there for some time. The routine he followed daily was as follows. He got up early in the morning, washed his face, bathed, and then after wearing saffron-colored clothes and besmearing himself with sacred ashes, read Vishnu Sahasranam, a book giving 1,000 names in praise of Vishnu and held second in importance to Bhagavad Gita and Adhyatma Ramayana, an esoteric version of Rama's story with fate. He read these books very often. After some days, Baba thought of favoring and initiating Shama Vishnu Sahasranam. He therefore called the Ramadasi to him and said to him that he was suffering from intense stomach pain, and unless he took Sena pods, Sonamukhi, a mild purgative drug, the pain would not stop, so he should please go to the bazaar market and bring the drug. The Ramadasi closed his reading and went to the bazaar. Then Baba came from his seat to the Ramadasi's place of reading and took out the copy of Vishnu Sahasranam, and after coming back to his seat said to Shama, "Shama, this book is very valuable and efficacious, so I present it to you, you read it." Once I suffered intensely and my heart began to palpitate and my life was in danger. At that critical moment, I hugged this book to my heart. Then Shama, what a relief it gave me. I thought that Allah himself came down and saved me. So I give this to you, read it slowly, little by little, read daily one name at least and it will do you good. Shama replied that he did not want it and that owner of it, the Ramadasi, was a bad-tempered, obstinate and irritable fellow who would certainly pick up a quarrel with him. Besides, a rustic himself, he could not read distinctly the Sanskrit Devanagari script text of the book. Shama thought that
अखिल जगत के दाता साई, अखिल
Shama thought that Baba wanted to set him up against the Ramadasi by this act of his, but he had no idea what Baba felt for him. Baba must have thought to tie this necklace of Vishnu Sesnam around the neck of Shama, as he was an intimate devotee, though a rustic, and thus save him from the miseries of worldly existence. The efficacy of God's name is well known. It saves us from all sins and bad tendencies, frees us from the cycle of births and deaths. There's no easier sadhana than this. It is the best purifier of our mind. It requires no paraphernalia and no restrictions. It's so easy and so effective. This sadhana Baba wanted Shama to practice, though he did not crave for it. So Baba forced this on him. It's also reported that long ago, Eknath Maharaj similarly forced this Vishnu Sasnam on a poor Brahmin neighbor and thus saved him. The reading and study of this Vishnu Sasnam is a broad, open way of purifying the mind, and hence Baba thrust this on his own devotee, Shama. The Ramadasi returned soon with the Senapods. Anna Chinchanikar, who was then present and wanted to play the part of Narad, the celestial rishi, who was well known for setting up confrontation between gods and demons and vice versa, informed him of what had happened. The Ramadasi at once flared up. He came down at once on Shama with full fury. He said that it was Shama who set Baba to send him away under the pretext of stomachache for bringing the medicine, and thus took away the book. He began to scold and abuse Shama and remarked that if the book was not returned, he would dash his head. Shama calmly remonstrated with him, but in vain. Then Baba spoke kindly to him as follows. "Oh Ramadasi, what is the matter with you? Why are you so turbulent? Is not Shama our boy? Why do you scold him unnecessarily? How is it that you're so quarrelsome? Can you not speak soft and tender words? You read these sacred books daily, and still your mind is agitated and your passions uncontrolled. What sort of a Ramadasi are you? You ought to be indifferent to all things. Is it not strange that you should possess this book so strongly? A true Ramadasi should have no mamata, attachment, but have samata, equality towards all. You're now quarreling with Shama for a mere book. Go, take your seat. Books can be had in plenty with money, but not men. Think well and be considerate. What worth is your book? Shama had no concern with it. I took it up myself and gave it to him. You know it by heart. I thought Shama might read it and benefit thereby, so I gave it to him. How sweet were those words of Baba. Soft, tender, and nectar-like. Their effect was wonderful. The Ramadasi calmed down and said to Shama that he would take Pancharatni Gita in return. Shama was much pleased and said, "Why one? I shall give 10 copies in return." So the matter was ultimately settled. The question for consideration is, why should the Ramadasi press for Pancharatni Gita, a book for which he never cared to know, and why should he, who daily read religious books in the masjid in front of Baba, quarrel with Shama before him? We do not know how to apportion the blame and whom to blame. We only say that, had this incident not happened, the importance of the subject, the efficacy of God's name, and the significance of Vishnu Sahasranam would not have been brought home to Shama. So we see that Baba's method of teaching and initiating was unique. In this case, Shama did gradually study the book and mastered its contents to such an extent that he was able to explain it to Professor G. Narke, M.A. of the College of Engineering, Pune, the son-in-law of Shriman Bhuti and a devotee of Baba. Vital Vision. One day, while Kaka Sahib Diksit was in meditation after his morning bath in his ward at Shirdi, he saw a vision of Vital. When he went to see Baba afterwards, Baba asked him, "Did Vital Patil come? Did you not see him? He's very elusive. Hold him fast, otherwise he will give you the slip and run away." Then at noon, a certain hawker came there with 20 or 25 pictures of Vital of Pandharpur for sale. Mr. Dixit was surprised to see that the form of Vital he saw in his meditation exactly tallied with that in the picture, and he was also reminded of Baba's words. He therefore bought one picture most willingly and kept it in the shrine for worship. Gita Rahasya. Baba always loved those who studied Brahma Vidya, metaphysics, and encouraged them. To give an instance, once Bapu Sahib Jog received a post parcel. It contained a copy of Gita Rahasya by Lokamanya Tilak. Taking it under his armpit, he came to the masjid and prostrated before Baba when the parcel fell at Baba's feet. Baba inquired what it was. It was opened then and there, and the book was placed in Baba's hand. He turned some pages here and there for a few minutes, took out a rupee from his pocket, placed it on the book, and handed the same with the rupee to Jog and said to him, "Read this completely and you will be benefited." Mr. and Mrs. Kaparde. Let us close this chapter with a description of the Kapardes. Once Dada Sahib Kaparde came with his family and lived at Shirdi for some months. The diary of his stay has been published in English in the Shirdi Sai Leela magazine, 1 volume. Dada Sahib was not an ordinary man. He was the affluent and most famous advocate of Amaravati, Berar, and was a member of the Council of State, Delhi. He was intelligent and a very good speaker. Still, he dared not open his mouth before Baba. Most devotees spoke and argued with Baba off and on, but only three, Kaparde, Nulkar, and Bhuti, kept always silent. They were meek, modest, humble, and good-natured. Dada Sahib, who was able to expound Panchadashi, well-known Sanskrit treatise on the Advait philosophy by the famous Vidyaranya, to others, uttered no word when he came to the masjid before Baba. A man, however learned he may be, even in Vedas, fades away before one who has realized Brahma and becomes one with it. Learning cannot stand before self-realization. Dada Sahib stayed for 4 months, but Mrs. Kaparde stayed for 7. Both were highly pleased with the Shirdi stay. Mrs. Kaparde was faithful and devout and loved Baba deeply. Every noon she brought Naivedya herself to the masjid, and after it was accepted by Baba, she used to return and take her meals. On seeing her steady and firm devotion, Baba wanted to exhibit it to others. One noon, she brought a dish containing sanza, wheat pudding, puris, rice, soup, and kheer, and other sundry articles to the masjid. Baba, who usually waited for hours, got up at once, went up to his seat, and removing the cover from the dish, began to partake of all the things zealously. Shyama then asked him, "Why this partiality? At times, you throw away dishes of others and do not care to look at them. But this appeals to you earnestly? Why is this dish brought by this lady so sweet? This intrigues us." Baba then explained, "This food is really extraordinary. In former birth, this lady was a merchant's fat cow, yielding much milk. Then she disappeared and took birth in a gardener's family, then in a Kshatriya family and married a merchant. Then she was born in a Brahmin family. I saw her after a very long time. Let me take some sweet morsels of love from her dish." After saying this, Baba did full justice to her dish, washed his mouth and hands, belched out as he was fully satisfied, and resumed his seat. Then she bowed down and began to shampoo Baba's legs, and he began to talk with her and knead her arms, which were shampooing his legs. On seeing this reciprocal service, Shyama began to joke and said, "It's going on well. It's a wonderful sight to see God and his bhaktas serving each other." After being pleased with her sincere service, Baba asked her in low and fascinating tone to chant Rajaram, then and always, and said, "If you do this, your life's object will be achieved, your mind will attain peace, and you will be immensely benefited." To persons unfamiliar with spiritual matters, this might appear as a polite gesture, but really it was not so. It was a case of what is technically called Shaktipat, transference of power from the Guru to the disciple. How effective were Baba's words! In an instant, they pierced her heart and remained there. This case illustrates the nature of the relations that should subsist between the Guru and the disciple. Both should love and serve each other as one. There's no distinction or any difference between them. Both are one, and one cannot live without the other. The disciple placing his head at the Guru's feet is a gross or outward vision. Really and internally, they're both one and the same. Those who see any difference between them are yet unripe and not perfect. Bo to Shri Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 28. Sparrows Draw to Shirdi. Lakshmanchand, Parampur Lady, Mega. Preliminary. Sai is not finite or limited. He dwells in all beings, from ants and insects to the god Brahma. He pervades all. Sai was well versed in the knowledge of the Vedas, as well as in the science of self-realization, as he was proficient in both these. He was well fitted to the Sadguru. Anyone, though learned, but not able to awaken the disciples and establish them in self-realization, does not deserve to be called a Sadguru. Generally, the father gives birth to the body, and death invariably follows life. Sadguru does away with both life and death, and so he is more kind and merciful than anybody. Sai Baba often said that his man, the devotee, be at a distance, 1,000 kos away from him. He will be drawn to Shirdi like a sparrow, with a thread tied to his feet. This chapter describes the stories of 3 such sparrows. Lala Lakshmanchand. This gentleman was first serving in the railways and afterwards in Sri Venkateshwar Press in Bombay, and thereafter in the firm of Messa Raleigh Brothers as a munshi clerk. He got the contact of Baba in 1910. 1 or 2 months before Christmas, he saw in his dream at Santa Cruz, a suburb of Bombay, an old man with a beard standing and surrounded by his bhaktas. Some days later, he went to the house of his friend, Mr. Datriya Manchuna Pichur, to hear the Kirtan of Das Kunu. It was always the practice of Das Kunu to keep Baba's picture in front of the audience while making the Kirtan. Lakshmanchand was surprised to see that the features of the old man he saw in his dream tallied exactly with those in the picture. At first, he came to the conclusion that this old man he saw in his dream was Sai Baba himself. The sight of this picture, Dasgana Kirtan, and the life of the Saint Durgaram, and which Dasgana discoursed, all these things made a deep impression on his mind, and he pined to go to Shirdi. It is always experience of the Bhaktas that God always helps them in search for Sadguru and other spiritual endeavors. That very night at 8 p.m., a friend named Shankaru knocked at his door and asked him whether he would accompany him to Shirdi. His joy knew no bounds, and he at once decided to go to Shirdi. He borrowed 15 rupees from his cousin, and after making his due preparation, left for Shirdi. In the train, he and his friend Shankaru did some bhajans, sang religious songs, and inquired about Sai Baba with some fellow passengers, 4 Mohammedans, who were returning to their place near Shirdi. They all told them that Sai Baba was a great saint living in Shirdi for many years. Then, when they reached Gopagam, he wanted to buy some govas for offering to Baba. But he was so much enwrapped with the scenery and sights there that he forgot to purchase them. When they were nearing Shirdi, he was reminded of the govas. Just then he saw an old woman with a govas basket on her head running after the danga. The danga was stopped, and he gladly purchased some select fruits. When the woman said, "Take all the rest and offer them on my behalf to Baba," the facts that he had intended to purchase govas, but that he had forgotten to do so, the old woman's encounter and her devotion to Baba, all these were a surprise to both friends. And Lakshmachand thought in his mind that the old woman might be some relation of the old man. He saw in his dream. Then they drove on and came near Shirdi, and on seeing flags on the masjid, they saluted them. With puja materials in hand, they then went to the masjid and worshipped Baba with due formality. Lakshmachand was much moved and was extremely happy to see Baba. He was enwrapped with Baba's feet, as a bee with a sweet-smelling lotus. Then Baba spoke as follows: "Cunning fellow, he does bhajans on the way and inquires from others. Why ask others? Everything we should see with our own eyes, where is the necessity to question others? Just think for yourself whether your dream is true or not. Where was the necessity of the darshan by taking a loan from Marwari? Is the heart's desire now satisfied?" Hearing these words, Lakshmachand was wonderstruck at Baba's omniscience. He was at loss to know how Baba came to know about all the things that had happened en route from his house to Shirdi. The chief thing to note in this respect is that Baba never liked people to run into debt for taking his darshan, or celebrating any holiday or making any pilgrimage. Sanza. At noon, when Lakshmachand was sitting for meals, he got some sanza wheat pudding from a devotee as prasad. He was pleased to have it. Next day also he expected it, but nothing. So he was anxious to get it again. And on the third day at noon at the time, Baba Shukjog asked Baba what naivety he should bring. Baba told him to bring sanza. Then the bhaktas brought 2 big potfuls of sanza. Lakshmachand was very hungry, and there was some pain in his back. Then Baba said to him, "It is good that you are hungry. Take some sanza and some medicine for the pain in the back." He was again wonderstruck to see that Baba again read his mind and spoke out. What was happening? What was passing therein? How omniscient was he? Evil eye. On this occasion, he once witnessed one night the procession to the Javadi. Baba then suffered much from cough. He thought that this suffering of Baba might be due to somebody's evil eye. Next morning, when he went to the masjid, Baba spoke to Shama as follows: "I suffered last night from cough. Is it due to some evil eye? I think somebody's evil eye has worked on me, and I am suffering. In this case, Baba spoke out what was passing in Lakshmanjan's mind. On seeing this proof of Baba's omniscience and kindness to his bhaktas, he fell prostrate at Baba's feet and said, I am much pleased with your darshan. Ever be kind and merciful to me, and protect me always. There is no other God to me in this world except your feet. Let my mind be ever wrapped in your bhajan and feet. Let your grace protect me from the miseries of the world, and let me ever chant your name and be happy. After getting Baba's Udi and blessing, he returned home with his friend, much pleased and contented, and singing Baba's glory on the way. He remained a staunch devotee of Baba afterwards, and always sent garlands of flowers, copper and dakshina with any person of his acquaintance bound for Shirdi. 2. Berhampur Lady. Now let us turn to another sparrow. Baba's words devotee. One lady in Berhampur saw in her dream Sai Baba coming to her door and begging khichdi, rice cooked with dal and salt, for his meals. On awakening, she saw nobody at her door. However, she was pleased with the vision and told it to all, including her husband. He was employed in the postal department, and when he was transferred to Alcalo, both husband and wife, who were devout, decided to go to Shirdi. Then on a suitable day, they left for Shirdi, and after visiting Kumbhatis on the way, reached Shirdi and stayed there for 2 months. Every day they went to the masjid, performed Baba's worship, and passed their time happily. The couple came to Shirdi to offer khichdi as Navadip, but for the first 14 days, somehow or other, it could not be offered. The lady did not like this delay. Then on the 15th day she came at noon to masjid with her khichdi. There she found that Baba and others were already sitting for meals, and that the curtain was down. Nobody dared enter in when the curtain was left down, but the lady could not wait. She threw up the curtain with her hand and entered. Strange to say that Baba seemed that day hungry for khichdi and wanted that thing first. And when the lady came in with the dish, Baba was delighted and began to eat morsel after morsel of khichdi. On seeing the earnestness of Baba in this respect, everybody was wonderstruck, and those who heard the story of khichdi were convinced about his extraordinary love for his devotees. 3. Megha. Now let us go to the third and biggest sparrow. Megha of Viramgam was a simple and illiterate Brahmin, cook of Bahabud Sati. He was a devotee of Shiva and always chanted 5-syllable mantra, Namah Shivayam. He did not know the Sathya nor its chief mantra, the Gayatri. Rahul Bahadur Sati was interested in him, got him taught the Sathya and the Gayatri. Sati told him that Sai Baba of Shirdi was embodied form of the god Shiva and made him start for Shirdi. At the Broach railway station, he learned that Sai Baba was a Muslim, and his simple and orthodox mind was much perturbed at the prospect of bowing to a Muslim, and he prayed to his master not to send him there. His master, however, insisted on his going there and gave him a letter of introduction to his Sati, father-in-law, Ganesh Domatar, alias Dada Gilka at Shirdi, to introduce him to Sai Baba. When he reached Shirdi and went to the masjid, Baba was very indignant and would not allow him to enter. Kick out the rascal, roared Baba, and then said to Megha, You are a high caste Brahmin and I am a low Muslim. You will lose your caste by coming here, so get away. Hearing these words, Megha began to tremble. He was wondering as to how Baba had to come to know about what was passing in his mind. He stayed there for some days, serving Baba in his own way, but not convinced that he went home after he went to Tripur, Nastic district, and stayed there for a year and a half. Then again he returned to Shirdi. This time At the intercession of Dada Gelkar, he was allowed to enter the masjid and stay in Shirdi. Sai Baba help to Megha was not through an oral instruction. He worked upon Megha internally, mentally, with the result that he was considerably changed and benefited. Then Megha began to look upon Sai Baba as an incarnation of Shiva. In order to worship Shiva, vela leaves are required, and Megha used to go miles and miles every day to bring them and worship his Shiva Baba. His practice was to worship all the gods in the village and then come to the masjid, and after saluting Baba Gadi Asan, he worshipped Baba, and after doing some service, shampooing his legs, drank the washing the teeth of Baba's feet. Once it so happened that he came to the masjid without worshipping God Gandhava, as the door of the temple was closed. Baba did not accept his worship and sent him again, saying that the door was open then. Megha went, found the door open, worshipped the deity, and then returned to Baba as usual. Ganges bath. On one Makar Sankranti day, Megha wanted to besmear the body of Baba with sandal paste and bathe him with Ganges water. Baba was unwilling to undergo this operation, but at his repeated request, he consented. Megha had to traverse a distance of 8 cars going and returning to bring the scarce water from the Gomanti river. He brought the water, made all the preparations for the bath at noon, and asked Baba to get ready for the same. Then Baba again asked him to be freed from his bath, saying that as a fakir, he had nothing to do or gain with Ganges water. But Megha did not listen. He knew that Shiva is pleased with the bath of Ganges water, and that he must give his Shiva Baba that bath on that auspicious day. Baba then consented, came down and sat on a packed wooden board, and protruding his head said, "O Megha, do at least this favour. Head is the most important organ of the body, so pour the water over that only. It is equivalent to the full or the whole bath." "All right," said Megha, and lifting the water pot up, began to pour it on the head. But in doing this, he was so much overwhelmed with love that he cried out, "Hare Ganga," and emptied the pot on the whole body. He kept the pot aside and began to look at Baba. But to his surprise and amazement, he found that Baba's head was only drenched, but the body quite dry. Trident and Bindi. Megha worshipped Baba in 2 places. In the masjid, he worshipped Baba in person, and in the Vada, Baba's big picture given by Nana Sahib Jodhpur. This he did for 12 months. Then, in order to appreciate his devotion and confirm his faith, Baba gave him a vision. Early one morning, when Megha was lying down on his bed with his eyes closed but internally awake, he saw Baba. He clearly saw Baba's form. Baba, knowing him to be awake, threw akshanta, rice grains marked red with gunku, and said, "Megha, draw a trident," and disappeared. Hearing Baba's word, he eagerly opened his eyes but did not see Baba, but saw only rice grains spread here and there. He then went to Baba, told him about the vision, and asked permission to draw a trident. Baba said, "Did you not hear my words asking you to draw a trident? It was no vision but direct order, and my words are always pregnant with meaning and never hollow." Megha said, "I thought you woke me up, but all the doors were closed, so I thought it was a vision." Baba rejoined, "I require no door to enter. I have no form nor any extension. I always live everywhere. I carry on as a wire puller all the actions of a man who trusts me and merges in me." Megha returned to the Vadi and drew a red trident on the wall near Baba's picture. Next day, Ramadasi Bhakta came from Poonam, saluted Baba and offered him a bindi, an image of Shiva. At this time, Megha also turned up there. Baba said to him, See, Shankar has come. Protect. Worship him now. Megha was surprised to see the bindi, following Trident immediately. Then also in the wadi, Kakasab Dixi was standing with a towel on his head after taking his bath and was remembering sighing. When he saw a pindi before his mental vision, while he was wondering about this, Megha came and showed him the bindi presented to him by Baba. Dixie was happy to know that the bindi exactly tallied with the one he saw a few minutes before in his vision. In a few days after the drawing of the trident was complete, Baba installed the bindi near the big picture which Megha was worshipping. The worship of Shiva was dear to Megha, and by arranging the drawing of the trident and the installation of the bindi, Baba confirmed his faith therein. After continuous service of Baba for many years, doing regular worship and addi every noon and evening, Megha passed away in 1912. Then Baba passed his hands over his corpse and said, "This was a true devotee of mine." Baba also ordered that at his own expense, the usual funeral dinner should be given to the Brahmins, and this order was carried out by Kakasab Dixi. Bow to Shri Sai, peace to be all.
तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्
Chapter 29 Stories of Madrasi Bhajani Mela, Tendulkar's father and son, Dr. Captain Hate, Vaman Narvekar. This chapter describes other interesting and wonderful stories of Sai Baba. Madrasi Bhajani Mela. It was in the year of 1916 that a Madrasi Bhajani Mela party of the Ramdasi Panth started on a pilgrimage to the holy city of Banaras, now known as Varanasi in UP. The party consisted of a man, his wife, daughter, and sister-in-law. Unfortunately, their names are not mentioned. On their way, the party heard that there lived at Shirdi in Kopargaon Taluka, Ahmednagar district, a great sage named Sai Baba, who was calm and composed, and who was very liberal and who distributed money every day to his bhaktas and to skillful persons who went and showed their skill there. A lot of money in the form of dakshina was collected daily by Sai Baba, and out of this amount, he gave daily 1 rupee to a 3-year-old girl Amani, the daughter of Bhakta Kondaji, rupees 2 to 5 to Sam, rupees 6 to Jamali, the mother of Amani, and rupees 10 to 20, and even rupees 50 to other bhaktas as he pleased. On hearing all this, the party came to Shirdi and stayed there. The Mela did very good bhajan and sang very good songs, but inwardly they craved for money. 3 of the party were full of avarice, but the chief lady or mistress was a very different nature. She had a regard and love for Baba. Once it so happened that when the noon arti was going on, Baba was much pleased with her faith and devotion and was pleased to give her darshan of her Ishtam, beloved deity. To her, Baba appeared as Sita Nath, Rama, while to others, the usual Sai Nath. On seeing her beloved deity, she was very much moved. Tears began to flow from her eyes and she clapped her hands in joy. The people began to wonder at her joyful mood, but were not able to guess its cause. Late in the afternoon, she disclosed everything to her husband. She told him how she saw Sri Rama in Sai Baba. He thought that she was very simple and devout, and her seeing Rama might be hallucination of her mind. He pooh-poohed her, saying that it was not possible that she alone should see Rama while they all saw Sai Baba. She did not resent this remark, as she was fortunate enough to get Ram Darshan now and then. Wonderful vision. Things were going on like this when The husband got a wonderful vision in his dream one night as follows. He was in a big city. The police there had arrested him, tied his hands with rope, and put him up in a cage lock-up. As the police were tightening the grip, he saw Sai Baba standing quite outside near the cage. On seeing Baba so near, he said in a plaintive tone, "Hearing your fame, I came to your feet, and why should a calamity befall me when you are standing here in person?" Baba said, "You must suffer the consequences of your action." He said, "I have not done anything in this life which would bring such misfortune on me." Baba said, "If not in this life, you must have committed some sin in your past life." He replied, "I do not know anything about my past life, but assuming that I did commit some sin, then why should it not be burnt and destroyed in your presence as a dry grass before fire?" Baba said, "Have you got such faith?" He said, "Yes, Baba." Yes. Baba then asked him to close his eyes. No sooner did he shut them than he heard a thumping sound of something falling down, and opening his eyes, he saw that he was free and the police had fallen down, bleeding. Being much frightened, he began to look at Baba, who said, "Now you are well caught. Officers will now come and arrest you." Then he begged, "There is no other savior except you. Save me anyhow." Then Baba again asked him to close his eyes. He did so, and when he opened them, he saw that he was free out of cage and that Baba was by his side. He then fell at Baba's feet. Baba then asked him, "Is there any difference between the Namaskar and your previous ones? This Namaskar and your previous ones? Think well and reply." He said, "There is a lot of difference. My former Namaskars were offered with the object of getting money from you, but the present Namaskar is one offered to you as God. Besides, formerly I thought resentfully that you, being a Mohammedan, were spoiling us, the Hindus." Baba said, "Do you not believe in your mind in Mohammedan gods?" He said, "No." Then Baba said, "Have you not got a panja, emblem of hand, in your house? And do you not worship the same in Tabut by name Kat Bibi, whom you propitiate and appease on marriage occasion and other festivals? Is it not so?" He admitted all this. Then Baba said, "What more do you want?" Then a desire arose in his mind to get the darshan of his Guru Ramdas. When Baba asked him to turn back and see, and when he turned, lo, Ramdas was in front of him. No sooner did he begin to fall at his feet, Ramdas vanished. Then he inquisitively asked Baba, "You look old. Do you know your age?" Baba said, "What? Do you say I am old? Just run a race with me and see." On saying this, Baba began to run, and he too followed. Baba disappeared in dust raised by his footsteps while running, and the man was awakened. After awakening, he began to think seriously about dream vision. His mental attitude was completely changed, and he realized the greatness of Baba. After this, his grabbing and doubting tendencies disappeared, and the true devotion to Baba's feet sprang in his mind. The vision was mere a dream, but the questions and answers therein were most significant and interesting. Next morning, when all the persons assembled in the masjid for Aarti, Baba gave him a prasad, 2 rupees worth sweetmeats, and also 2 rupees from his pocket and blessed him. He made him stay there for a few more days and gave him blessings, saying, "Allah, God, will give you plenty and He will do all good." He did not get more money there, but he got far better things, viz. Baba's blessings, which stood him in good stead all along. The party got plenty of money afterwards, and the pilgrimage was successful, as they had not to suffer any trouble or inconvenience during their journey. They all returned home safe and sound, thinking of Baba's words and blessings and the Anand bliss they experienced by his grace. This story illustrates one of the methods which Baba followed and is following even now, in some cases to improve and reform his devotees. Tendulkar family. There lived in Bandra, a suburb of Bombay, a Tendulkar family, all the family members which were devoted to Baba. Mrs. Savitribai Tendulkar has published a Marathi book named Sri Sainath Bhajan Mala, containing 800 abhangas and padas, describing the leelas of Baba. It is a book worth reading by those who are interested in Baba. His son, Babu Tendulkar, was studying hard day and night and wanted to appear for the medical examination. He consulted some astrologers. Examining his horoscope, they told him that the stars were not favorable that year and that he should appear for the examination next year, when he would certainly be successful. This cast a gloom over him and made him restless. A few days afterwards, his mother went to Shirdi and saw Baba. Amongst other things, she mentioned the gloomy and morose condition of her son, who was to appear for the examination in few days. Hearing this, Baba said to her, "Tell your son to believe in me, to throw aside horoscopes and predictions of astrologers and palmists, and go on with his studies. Let him appear for the examination with a calm mind. He is sure to pass this year. Ask him to trust in me and not to get disappointed." The mother returned home and communicated Baba's message to her son. Then he studied hard, in due course appeared for the examination. In the written papers he did well, but being overwhelmed by doubts, he thought that he would not secure sufficient marks for passing. So he did not care to appear for the oral examination. But the examiner was after him. He sent words through a fellow student stating that he had passed in the written examination and that he should appear for the oral. The son, being thus encouraged, appeared for the oral examination and was successful in both. Thus he got through the examination that year successfully by Baba's grace, though the stars were against him. It is to be noted here that doubts and difficulties surround us just to move us and confirm our faith. We are tested as the father of this boy, Raghunath Rao, was serving in some foreign mercantile firm in Bombay. As he grew old, he was not able to attend his work properly, and so he had to take leave and rest. As he did not improve during period of leave, further extension of leave or retirement from service was inevitable. The chief manager of the firm decided to retire him on pension as he was an old and reliable servant. The question regarding the amount of pension to be given was under consideration. He was getting rupees 150 per month, and his pension, i.e. half of the amount, viz. rupees 75, would not be enough to meet the expenses of family. So they were all anxious about this matter. 15 days before the final settlement, Baba appeared to Mrs. Tendulkar in her dream and said, "I wish that rupees 100 should be paid, settled as pension. Will this satisfy you?" She replied, "Baba, why ask me this? We fully trust in you." Though Baba said rupees 100, still he was given 10 rupees more, i.e. rupees 110, as a special case. Such wonderful love and care did Baba exhibit for his bhaktas. Captain Hate. Captain Hate, who was staying in Bikaner, was a great devotee of Baba. Once Baba appeared to him in his dream and he said, Baba's feet, and replied, "If a child forgets his mother, how could it be saved?" Then Hate went into garden and took out fresh walpapdi vegetables and arranging sida, ghee, wheat flour and dal, etc. and dakshina, was about to offer all this to Baba when he was awakened and came to know that the whole thing was a dream at Shirdi. When he came by money order to a friend with instructions that ₹2 should be spent in buying Siddha articles and Valpapdi vegetables, and those should be offered to Baba with ₹10 as dakshina. The friend sent to Shirdi and purchased the things mentioned, but Valpapdi was not available. In short time, a woman turned up with a basket on her head, which curiously enough contained the vegetables. It was purchased, and then all the things were offered to Baba on behalf of Captain Hatter. Mrs. Nimonkar prepared the Naivedya, rice and Valpapdi vegetables, next day and offered the same to Baba. All the people were surprised to see that Baba, while dining, took and ate Valpapdi and did not touch rice and other things. Hatte's joy knew no bounds when he heard of this from his friend. Consecrated rupee. At another time, Captain Hatte wished that he should have in his house a coin of rupee consecrated by Baba with his touch. He came across a friend who was bound for Shirdi. With him, Hatte sent his rupee. The friend went to Shirdi and after the usual salutation, gave first his dakshina, which Baba pocketed. Then he gave Hatte's rupee, which Baba took in his hand and began to stare at it. He held it in front and tossed it up with his right thumb and played with it. Then he said to the friend, "Return this to its owner with the prasad of Udi. Tell him that I want nothing from him. Ask him to live in peace and contentment." The friend returned to Gwalior, handed over the consecrated rupee to Hatte, and told him all that happened at Shirdi. This time Hatte was much pleased and realized that Baba always encouraged good thoughts, and he wished intently Baba fulfilled the same accordingly. Vaman Narvekar. Now let the readers hear a different story. A gentleman named Vaman Narvekar loved Baba very much. He thought he bought a rupee. On one side of it were engraved the figures of Rama, Lakshman and Sita, and on the other side it was engraved the figure of Maruti with folded hands. He offered it to Baba with the hope that he should consecrate it with his touch and return it to him with Udi. But Baba immediately pocketed it. Then Shama spoke to Baba regarding Vaman Rao's intention and requested him to return it. Then Baba spoke in presence of Vaman Rao as follows: "Why should it be returned to him? We should keep it ourselves. If he gives ₹25 for it, it will be returned." Then for the sake of that rupee, Vaman Rao collected ₹25 and placed them before Baba. Then Baba said, "The value of that rupee far exceeds 25 rupees. Shama, take this rupee, let us have it in our store. Keep this in your shrine and worship it." No one had the courage to ask Baba why he followed this particular action. He only knows that is best and most suitable to each and all. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 30. Drawn to Shirdi. 1. Kakaji Vaidya of Wani. 2. Punjabi Ramlal of Bombay. In this chapter, the story of two more devotees that were drawn to Shirdi is narrated. Preliminary. Bow to the kind Sai, who is the abode of mercy and who is affectionate towards his devotees. By his mere darshan, he does away with their fear of this bhava, samsar, and destroys their calamities. He was first nirgun, formless, but on account of the devotion of his bhaktas, he was obliged to take a form. To give liberation, self-realization to the bhaktas, is the mission of the saints, and for Sai, the chief of them, that mission is inevitable. Those who take refuge in his feet have all their sins destroyed, and their progress is certain. Remembering his feet, Brahmins from holy places come to him and read scriptures and chant the Gayatri mantra in his presence. We who are weak and without any merits do not know what bhakti is, but we know this much, that though all others may leave us, Sai won't forsake us. Those whom he favors get enormous strength, discrimination between the unreal and the real, and knowledge. Sai knows fully the desire of his devotees and fulfills the same. Hence they get what they want and are grateful. So we invoke him and prostrate ourselves before him. Forgetting all our faults, let him free us from all anxieties. He who, being overcome with calamities, remembers and prays Sai thus, will get his mind calmed and pacified through his grace. This Sai, the ocean of mercy, says Himantpant, favored him, and the result of this is the present work, Sai Satcharitra. Otherwise, what qualifications had he, and who would undertake this enterprise? But as Sai took all the responsibility, Hemantpant felt no burden, nor any care about this. When the powerful light of knowledge was there to inspire his speech and pen, why should he entertain any doubt or feel any anxiety? Sai got the service in the form of this book, done by him. This is due to the accumulation of his merits in the past births, and therefore he thinks himself fortunate and blessed. The following story is not a mere tale, but pure nectar. He who drinks it will realize Sai's greatness and all-pervasiveness. Those who want to argue and criticize should not go in for these stories. What's wanted here is not discussion, but unlimited love and devotion. Learned, devout, and faithful believers, or those who consider themselves as servants of the saints, will take and appreciate these stories. Others will take them to be fables. The fortunate bhaktas of Sai will find the Sai leelas as the kalpatru, wish-fulfilling tree. Drinking this nectar of Sai's leelas will give liberation to the ignorant jivas, satisfaction to the householders, and a sadhana to the aspirants. Now to the story of this chapter. Kakaji Vaidya. There lived in Vani, Nasik district, a man named Kakaji Vaidya. He was the priest of the goddess Saptashringi there. He was so much overwhelmed with adverse circumstances and calamities that he lost peace of mind and became quite restless. Under such circumstances, one evening he went into the temple of the goddess and prayed unto her from the bottom of his heart and invoked her aid to free him from anxiety. The goddess was pleased with his devotion, and the same night appeared to him in his dream and said to him, "You go to Baba, and then your mind will become calm and composed." Kakaji was anxious to know from her who that Baba was, but before he could get any explanation, he was awakened. Then he began to think as to who might be that Baba to whom the goddess has asked him to go. After some thinking, he resolved that this Baba might be Triambakeshwar, Lord Shiva. So he went to the holy place Triambak, Nasik district, and stayed there for 10 days. During this period, he bathed early in the morning, chanted the Rudra hymns, did the Abhishekam, pouring unceasingly fresh cold water over the pindi, and did other religious rites. But with all that, he was as restless as before. Then he returned to his place and again invoked the goddess most pitifully. That night she again appeared in his dream and said, "Why did you go to Triambakeshwar in vain? I mean by Baba, Shirdi Sai Satcharitra of Shirdi." The question before Kakaji now was, how and when to go to Shirdi and how to see Baba. If anybody is in real earnest to see a saint, not only the saint, but God also fulfills his wish. In fact, the Sant, saint, and the Anant, God, are one and the same. There is not the least difference between them. If anybody thinks that he will go himself and see a saint, that will be a mere boast. Unless the saint wills it, who is able to go and see him? Even the leaf of a tree won't move without his bidding. The more anxious a bhakta is for the saint's visit, the more devout and faithful he is, the more speedily and effectively is his wish satisfied to his heart's content. He who invites anybody for a visit also arranges everything for his reception, and so it happened with Kakaji. Shama's vows. When Kakaji was thinking his visit to Shirdi, a guest came to him at his place to take him to Shirdi. He was no other than Shama, a very close and intimate devotee of Baba. How he came to Vani at this juncture, we shall just see. Shama was severely ill when he was very young, and his mother had taken a vow to her family goddess, Shringi at Vani, that if the son got well, she would bring and dedicate him at her feet. Then, after some years, the mother herself suffered much from ringworms on her breasts. At that time, she again took another vow to her deity that if she got all right, she would offer her 2 silver breasts. These 2 vows remained unfulfilled. At her deathbed, she called her son Shama to her and drew his attention to the vows. And after taking a promise from him that he would fulfill them, she breathed her last. After some time, Shama quite forgot about these vows, and thus 30 years elapsed. About this time, a famous astrologer had come to Shirdi and stayed there for a month. His predictions in the case of Shriman Bhuti and others came true, and everybody was satisfied. Shama's younger brother Bapaji consulted him and was told that his mother's vows, which his elder brother promised to fulfill at her deathbed, were not yet fulfilled. Hence, the goddess was displeased with them and bringing troubles on them. Babaji told this to his brother Shama, who was then reminded of the unfulfilled vows. Thinking that any further delay would be dangerous, he called a goldsmith and got a pair of silver breasts prepared. Then he went to the masjid, prostrated himself before Baba, and placing before him the 2 silver breasts, requested him to accept them and free him from the vows, as he was to him his Shringi goddess. Then Baba insisted upon him to go himself to the temple of Shringi and offer them in person at the feet of the goddess. Then, after taking Baba's permission and Udi, he left for Vani and, searching for the priest, came to Kakaji's house. Kakaji was then very anxious to visit Baba, and Shama went there to see him at that very time. What a wonderful coincidence is this! Kakaji asked him who he was and whence he had come, and on learning that he came from Shirdi, he at once embraced him. So overpowered was he with love. Then they talked about Sai leelas, and after finishing the rites of Shama's vows, they both started for Shirdi. On reaching the place, Kakaji went to the masjid and fell at Baba's feet. His eyes were soon bedewed with tears, and his mind attained calmness. According to the vision of the goddess, no sooner did he see Baba that his mind lost all its restlessness and it became calm and composed. Kakaji began to think in his mind, what a wonderful power is this? Baba spoke nothing. There was no question and answer, no benedictions pronounced. The mere darshan itself was so conducive to happiness. The restlessness of my mind disappeared by his mere darshan. Consciousness of joy came upon me. This is what is called the greatness of darshan. His vision was fixed on Sai's feet, and he could utter no word. Hearing Baba's leelas, his joy knew no bounds. He surrendered himself completely to Baba, forgot his anxiety and cares, and got undiluted happiness. He lived happily there for 12 days and after taking Baba's leave, Uddhi and blessings, returned home. Kushal Chand of Rahata. It's said that a dream which we get in the small hours of the morning generally comes out true in the waking state. This may be so, but regarding Baba's dream, there's no restriction of time. To quote an instance, Baba told Kaka Sahib Dikshit one afternoon to go to Rahata and fetch Kushal Chand to Shirdi, as he had not seen him since long. Kaka Sahib accordingly took a tonga and went to Rahata. He saw Kushal Chand and gave him Baba's message. Hearing it, Kushal Chand was surprised and said that he was taking a noon nap after meals when Baba appeared in his dream and asked him to come to Shirdi immediately and that he was anxious to go. As he had no horse of his own nearby, he had sent his son to inform Baba. When his son was just out of the village border, Dikshit's tonga turned up. Dikshit then said that he was sent specially to bring him. Then they both went in the tonga back to Shirdi. Kushal Chand saw Baba and all were pleased. Seeing this leela of Baba, Kushal Chand was much moved. Punjabi Ramlal of Bombay. Once a Punjabi Brahmin of Bombay named Ramlal got a dream in which Baba appeared and asked him to come to Shirdi. Baba appeared to him as a Mahant, saint, but he did not know his whereabouts. He thought that he should go and see him, but as he knew not his address, he did not know what to do. But he who calls anybody for an interview makes the necessary arrangements for the same. The same happened in this case. The same afternoon, when he was strolling in the streets, he saw a picture of Baba in a shop. The features of the Mahant he saw in the dream exactly tallied with those of the picture. Then, making inquiries, he came to know that the picture was of Sai Baba of Shirdi. He then went soon after to Shirdi and stayed there till his death. In this way, Baba brought his devotees to Shirdi for darshan and satisfied their wants, material as well as spiritual. Bow to Shirdi Sai, peace be to all.
Chapter 31. The passing away in Baba's presence of 1. Sannyasi Vijayanand, 2. Balram Mankar, 3. Nulkar, 4. Mega, and 5. The tiger. In this chapter, Hemant describes the passing away of certain persons and a tiger in Baba's presence. Preliminary. The last wish or thought that a man has at the hour of death determines his future course. Sri Krishna has said in the Gita, chapter 8, verses 5 to 6, that he who remembers me in his last moments comes verily to me, and he that meditates otherwise at that time goes to what he looks for. We cannot be certain that we can entertain a particular good thought at our last moment, for more often than not, we're more likely to be frightened and terrified of many causes. Hence, constant practice is necessary for enabling us to fix our mind on any desired good thought at any or the last moment. All saints, therefore, recommend us to always remember God and chant his name, always, so that we may not be puzzled when the time for departure comes. The devotees on their part surrender themselves completely to the saints, fully believing that the all-knowing saints would guide and help them in their last moments. A few such cases will be noted here. 1. Vijayanand. A Madrasi sannyasi named Vijayanand started on a pilgrimage to Mansarovar. En route, hearing Baba's fame, he halted at Shirdi. There, he met one Somdevji Swami of Haridwar and inquired of him about the particulars of the Mansarovar trip. The Swami told him that the Sarovar was 500 miles above the Gangotri and described to him the difficulty of the journey, namely, plenty of snow and the change of dialect every 50 kos, and the suspicious nature of the people of Bhutan, who give a lot of trouble to the pilgrims on the way. Hearing this, the sannyasi was dejected and cancelled the trip. Then, when he went to Baba and prostrated himself before him, Baba got enraged and said, "Drive out this useless sannyasi. His company is of no use." The sannyasi did not know Baba's nature. He felt discomforted, but sat there watching things that were going on. It was the morning darbar and the masjid was overcrowded. Baba was being worshipped in various ways. Some were washing his feet, some taking the tirth, the holy water, from his toe and drinking it heartily, and some touching their eyes with it. Some were applying sandal paste, and some scents to his body. And all were doing these things forgetting the distinction of caste and creed. Though Baba got enraged with him, he was filled with affection for Baba, and he did not like to leave the place. He stayed in Shirdi for 2 days. When he got a letter from Madras stating his mother was very ill, he felt very dejected and wanted to be by his mother's side. But he could not leave without Baba's permission. So he saw Baba with the letter in hand and asked for his permission to return home. The omniscient Baba, knowing the future, said to him, "If you so loved your mother, why did you take sannyasa? Fondness or attachment ill becomes an orca garb. Go and sit quiet at your lodging. Wait with patience for a few days. In the Vada, there are many robbers. Bolt your doors. Be very vigilant. The thieves will carry everything. Wealth and prosperity are transient, and the body is subject to decay and death. Knowing this, do your duty, leaving all attachment to the things of this world and the next. He who does this and surrenders himself to the feet of Hari, the Lord, will get free from all troubles and attain bliss. The Lord runs and helps him who remembers and meditates on him with love and affection. Your store of past merits is considerable, so you have come here. Now attend to what I say and realize the end of your life. Being desireless, begin from tomorrow the study of the Bhagavad. Do 3 saptas, i.e. 3 readings during 3 weeks conscientiously. The Lord will be pleased with you and destroy your sorrows. Your illusions will vanish and you will get peace." Seeing that his end was approaching, Baba prescribed the remedy and made him read Ram Vijaya, which pleases the god of death. Next morning, after bathing and other purifying rites, he commenced to read the Bhagavad in a secluded part in the Lendi garden. He completed 2 readings and thereafter felt much exhausted. He returned to the Vada and stayed in his lodging for 2 days, and on the 3rd day, he breathed his last on Fakir Bare Baba's lap. Baba asked the people to preserve the body for a day for a good reason. The police afterwards came and, on making proper inquiries, gave permission for the disposal of the body. He was buried in a proper place with due rites. In this way, Baba helped the sannyasi and ensured him Sadgati, or salvation. 2. Balram Mankar. There was a householder devotee of Baba by the name of Balram Mankar. When his wife passed away, he got dejected and, entrusting his household to his son, left his home and came to Shirdi and lived with Baba. Being pleased with his devotion, Baba wanted to give a good turn to his life, and he did this in this way. He gave him 12 rupees and asked him to go and live in Machindragarh, district Satara. Mankar was first unwilling to go and stay away from Baba, but Baba convinced him that he was giving the best course for him, asked him to practice meditation thrice a day on the Gad, or the fort. On believing in Baba's words, Mankar came to the Gad. He was much pleased with the lovely sight, pure water, healthy air, and the surroundings of peace, and began to practice assiduously the meditations as recommended by Baba. After some days, he got a revelation. Generally, bhaktas get revelation in the samadhi or trance states, but in Mankar's case, he got it when he came down to his ordinary consciousness from his trance. Baba appeared to him in person. Not only that Mankar saw him, but he also asked him why he was sent there. Baba replied, "In Shirdi, many thoughts and ideas began to rise in your mind, and I sent you here to rest your unsteady mind. You thought that I was in Shirdi with a body composed of the 5 elements and 3.5 cubits in length, and not outside of it. Now you see and determine for yourself whether the person you see here now is the same you saw in Shirdi. It is for this reason I sent you here. Then after the period was over, Munkar left the Gada and proceeded to his native place, Bandra. He wanted to travel by rail from Unna to Gadar, but when he went to the booking office to get a ticket, he found it very much crowded. He could not get his ticket soon when a villager with a langoti, a piece of cloth on his waist and gambali on his shoulder, turned up and said, "Where are you going?" "To Dadar," replied Munkar. Then he said, "Please take this Dadar ticket of mine. As I have some urgent business here, I have cancelled my Dadar trip." Munkar was very glad to receive the ticket and was just taking out money from his pocket when the rustic disappeared in the crowd. Munkar tried to find him out in the crowd, but in vain. He waited for him till the train left the station, but found no trace of him. This was the second revelation Munkar got in a strange form. Then Munkar, after visiting his home, again returned to Shirdi and remained there at Baba's feet, always following his bidding and advice. In the end, he was very fortunate to leave this world in the presence and with the blessings of Baba. 3. Sathya Sahib Nulkar. Hematman gives no particulars regarding Sathya Sahib Nulkar, except the bare mention of the fact that he gave up his ghost in Shirdi. A brief summary of his account that appeared in the Sai Leela magazine is given here. Sathya Sahib was a sub-judge at Pandarpur in 1909 when Nana Sahib Chandorkar was Mamaltaradar there, a revenue officer. Both met often and exchanged talks. Sathya Sahib did not believe in saints, while Nana Sahib loved them. Nana Sahib often told him that the leelas of Sai Baba impressed him to go to Shirdi and see Baba. He finally agreed to go to Shirdi on two conditions. 1, he must get a Brahmin cook, and 2, he must get good Nagpur oranges for the presentation. Both these conditions were providentially fulfilled. A Brahmin came to Nana Sahib for service and he was sent to Sathya Sahib, and a fruit parcel containing 100 beautiful oranges was received by Sathya Sahib, the consigner being not known. As these conditions were fulfilled, Sathya Sahib had to go to Shirdi. At first, Baba was much enraged with him, but by and by, Sathya Sahib got such experiences that he was convinced that Baba was God incarnate. So he was enamored of Baba and stayed there till his death. As his end was approaching, sacred literature was read out to him, and at the last hour, Baba's Padatirth was brought and given to him for drinking. Baba, on hearing of his death, said, "Oh, Sathya went ahead of us. He won't be reborn." 4. Mega. The story of Mega has been already described in chapter 28. When Mega died, all the villagers followed the funeral procession. Baba also accompanied them and showered flowers on Mega's body. After the obsequies were performed, tears flowed from Baba's eyes, and like an ordinary mortal, Baba showed himself overcome with grief and sorrow. Then, covering the body with flowers and crying like a near relation, Baba returned to the masjid. Many saints have been seen giving sadgati to men, but Baba's greatness is unique. Even a cruel animal like a tiger came to Baba's feet for being saved. It is this story which will be narrated now. 5. The tiger. And this tiger is still buried in Shirdi. 7 days before Baba passed away, a wonderful incident occurred at Shirdi. There came a country cart and stopped in front of the masjid. A tiger was on the cart, fastened with iron chains, with its fierce face turned to the rear. It was suffering from some pain or agony. Its keepers, 3 darveshis, were taking it from place to place and making money by exhibiting it. It was the means for their subsistence. They tried all sorts of remedies to cure it from the malady it was suffering, but all was in vain. Then they heard of Baba's fame and came to him with the animal. They got it down with chains in their hands and made it stand at the door. It was naturally fierce, besides disease-ridden, so it was restless. The people began to look at it with fear and amazement. The dervishis went in, told Baba everything about the animal, and, with his consent, brought it before him. As it approached the steps, it was taken aback on account of the luster of Baba and hung its head down. When both saw each other, it got on the step and looked at Baba with affection. Immediately, it moved the tuft of its tail and dashed it thrice against the ground, and then fell down senseless. On seeing it dead, the wretches were first much dejected and full of sorrow, but on mature thought they came to their senses. They considered that as the animal was diseased and nearing its end, it was very meritorious on its part that it should meet its death at the feet and in the presence of Baba. It was their debtor, and when the debt was paid off, it was free and met its end at Sai's feet. When any creatures bow down their heads at saints' feet and meet death, they are saved, and unless they have got a good store of merit on their account, how could they get such a happy end? Bow to Shirdi Sai. Peace be to all.
Shri Satchidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj ki Jai. Aarati Sai Baba Saukya Datar Jeeva Charanal Jatani Yavada Sami Sava Bhakta Visava Aarati Sai Baba Tumche Nam Dhyata Hari Samskriti Vyata Agadha Tava Karani Margada Visiyanada Davisiyanada Aarati Sai Baba Kaliyogi Avatara Saguna Para Brahma Sachara Avatirna Zala Se Swami Datta Digambara Aarati Sai Baba Saukya Datar Jeeva Charanal Jatani Javada Sami Sava Bhakta Visava Aarati Sai Baba Shirdi Maze Pandharpura Sai Baba Ramavara Baba Ramavara Sai Baba Ramavara Shuddha Bhakti Chandra Bhaga Bhava Kundalika Jaga Kundalika Jaga Bhava Kundalika Jaga Kali Lotangana Vandina Charana Dorani Pahina Ruma Tujhe Preme Alindina Ananda Pujina Bhave Avalina Mani Nama Tvameva Mata Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Ayena Vacha Manasindriyeva Buddhyatmana Va Prakriti Svabhava Karomi Adyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanaiti Samarpayami Achyutam Keshavam Ramanarayanam Krishna Damodaram Vasudevam Hari Sridharam Madhavam Gopika Vallavam Janaki Nayakam Ramachandram Bhaje Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Shri Gurudeva Datta Ananta Tulate Kasere Stavave Ananta Tulate Kasere Namave Ananta Mukhacha Shire Sheshagata Namaskar Sashtanga Shri Sai Natha Aisa Yehi Ba Sai Digambara Akshaya Rupa Avatara Sarvahi Vyapak Tu Shruti Sara Anusaya Trikumara Baba Yehi Ba Sada Swarupam Chidananda Kandam Jagat Sambhavasthana Samhara Hetum Swabhakti Chayamanusham Darshayantam Namamishwaram Sadgurum Sainatham रुसो मम प्रियाम्बिकामजबरी पिता हि रुसो रुसो मम प्रियाङ्गना प्रियसुता मजाहि रुसो रुसो भगिनी बन्धुहि श्वशुरसा सुबाई रुसो ददत्त गुरु साई मामजबरी तदीहि रुसो गुणाची घृणानसो न च स्पृहा कशाची असो सदैव हृदयी वसो मनसि ध्यानि साई वसो मणि प्रणयवो रसो निखिल दृश्य बाबानिसो नदत्त गुरु साई मा उपनिया चनीला रुसो हरि ओम यज्ञेन यज्ञमयजन्त देवास्तानि धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् तेहनाकं महिमानः सचन्त यत्र पूर्वे साध्या सन्ति देवाः ॐ राजाधिराजाय प्रसंयसायिने नमो वयं वै श्रवणाय कुर्महे समे कामान् कामकामाय मह्यम् कामेश्वरो वै श्रवणो ददातु कुबेराय वै श्रवणाय महाराजाय नमः श्रीनारायण वासुदेवाय सच्चिदानन्द सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय करचरण कृतं वा कायजं कर्मजं वा शरणनयनजं वा मानसं वा परालं विहितमविहितं वा सर्वमेतत्क्षमस्व जय जय करुणाब्धे श्री प्रभो साईनाथ श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय राधिराज योगीराज परब्रह्म साईनाथ महाराज श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साई Namaste.